Ready to go. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't we play the video first?
Yeah, please play the video.
Okay.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras. Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
Okay, welcome to the Board of Public Accountancy meeting for Friday, July 26th, 2024. Calling the meeting to order at 8:33 a.m. Just some administrative items before we start. Internet access to view the meeting and provide live oral testimony. Please use the link at the top of the agenda. You will be asked to enter your name. The board requests that you enter your full name. Use a pseudonym or other identifier if you wish to remain anonymous. You will also be asked for an email address. You fill in this field with any entry in an email format. Your microphone will be automatically muted. When the chairman asks for public testimony, you may click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to testify about the agenda item. The chair will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chair, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking. If you cannot get internet access or phone access, if you cannot get internet access, you may get audio only access by calling the Zoom phone number listed at the top of the agenda. Upon dialing the number, you will be prompted to enter the meeting ID, which is also listed at the top of the agenda. After entering the meeting ID, you will be asked to either enter your panelist number or wait to be admitted to the meeting. You will not have a panelist number, so please wait until you are admitted into the meeting. When the chair asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering star and then 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering star and 9, a voice prompt will let you know the host of the meeting has been admitted. When recognized by the chair, you may unmute yourself and press star, then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you've been unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter star 6 again to mute yourself. For both internet and phone access, when testifying, you'll be asked to testify yourself and identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 5 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If the connection to the meeting is lost for more than 30 minutes, the meeting will be continued on a specified date and time. This information will be provided on the board's website, with the link listed on the agenda. Instructions to attend the State of Hawaii Virtual Board Meeting will be found online at the link here on the agenda. At this time, I would go to agenda item number 1, call to order roll call. And just say here when I call your name. Robert Kawahara. Here. Isabella Gary. Alex Smith. Here. Wendell Lee. Here. John Arbos. Here. Self, Gary Bianchero here. Agenda item number 2. I guess prior to this agenda item is a public testimony.
Thank you, Chair. This is Johnny. We do not have anyone requesting to provide testimony.
Okay, agenda item number 2 is my report. Don't have any announcement at this time for agenda item number 2A. Agenda item number 2B, just reporting really briefly on my attendance at the NASBA 2024 Western Region meeting that was held June 25 to 27 in Omaha, Nebraska. Myself and Alex Smith attended that meeting. And just, I give you the bullet point highlights. I mean, like I said, I can probably give you the whole, whatever we went through, at the regional meetings, but, just like I said, the bullet point highlights what was discussed, as far as the Western region and really nationwide was the NPAG, the National Pipeline Advisory Group. That was a big topic, which I think we discussed in a previous meeting. From that particular topic was this thing you may be hearing around the CPA community called the Structured Professional Program. And this is done by this NPAG or ideas on how to give alternative options to the 30 credit rule that a lot of states have. So these are ideas on how to structure a program to get credit for licensing. You hear it commonly referred to in around the NASBA and AICPA circles as SPP. And that's still in progress under the National Pipeline Advisory Group. But the real major topic of discussion at this conference is obviously how we're going to move, or how the states are moving from the 150 credits to the additional 30 credits. That's a big discussion because some states have already done that, got rid of the, or maybe not get rid of, but they have alternatives to the additional 30 credits. So what was discussed a lot in and around the conference was going back to 120 plus experience, right? 120, the lingo, it was 120 plus 2, basically 120 credits plus 2 years of experience, and which is an alternative path to licensing. So many discussions were held, I think in our breakout sessions and also in the main session. That seems to be a hot topic. And what and then some of the states that were moving towards that. I don't know, I think Minnesota, South Carolina, and I think Arkansas. The big states that actually made some movement, I think. I may be wrong, but I think off the top of my head that those states came up. The other topic that came up, which I actually wasn't totally aware of, was private equity investments in accounting firms. And how the states are dealing with it because the owners of those firms are not CPAs. And that seems to be a big topic of discussion around the nation. And I was sitting there thinking, and I'm not sure if that's, I mean, I think that's happening maybe in our state, but being that we have a law that you have to be a CPA to be a owner, I don't know if that's came across our too, but it may start. But that was a big topic of discussion. And I guess a couple other things that the board we can consider doing more of, although in the past we have not, but outreach to the state societies and universities. Where, I mean, again, I don't know how that works, but the board goes out to universities to, I guess, PR. And then also with the state societies, working closely with them on, I guess, how the board's moving or how they feel about certain actions. So, were you in that meeting, Alec, that they pulled, how many are doing outreach to the universities and societies and would you say? So, not Hawaii so much. And then, discussion came up in or one of the president's roundtable or the chairperson's roundtable. There was some discussion on if boards had policies, written policies and procedures. And we do, and just to remind you, I think I asked Leah, it is in HRS chapters 84, 91, 92, in case you were wondering on how we should conduct ourselves. Again, which is always given to the board member when you first start. But anyway, that's my 5-minute kind of recap of the national, regional or NASBA's regional Western reading. So, again, just to point out, it is the 150 and the additional 30 credits on licensing. It is a hot topic and, just to give you an idea. Okay, anyway, I just wanted to give you my report, on that. Agenda item number 3, the approval of minutes of the May 31st, 2024 open session and executive session minutes. Is there any public testimony in relation to this agenda item?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have anyone requesting to provide testimony.
Okay, as far as the minutes, I mean, you guys have been given a copy of the draft. Because at this time, I would like to have a motion to move into executive session to discuss the minutes and executive session. What?
You have amendments to the executive session minutes?
I have some changes.
Before you go into that, I thought you wanted to discuss with the board if they wanted to even consider the 120 credits with 2 years experience, or again, can't move forward unless it's consented by the board to even consider that. Did you not want to?
Oh, yeah, right here. Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw that on the, right, you're right. I skipped over agenda item number BI as part of the, I guess the highlights from that regional meeting. As far as the state of Hawaii, let's say, moving in that direction. Sorry, rewind back to agenda item number 2BI. Discussion and consideration of the 120 credits plus 1 year of experience or any iteration thereof. I guess I open the discussion up to the board on how we feel about that as I moving forward. I personally think we should go in that direction and try and look for an alternative to the additional 30 credits. And look for an alternative, whether it's 1 or 2 years of experience.
This is Wendell. I agree that there is a lot of momentum behind removing the 30 credits. If you can pass a national test, why is that necessary? It creates a financial burden to folks who've just graduated from college that can barely afford college to invest in another 30 credits. So it's a barrier to entry to the CPA. I know the faculty at UH West Oahu, the accounting faculty, support removing the 30 credits because we see firsthand how it prevents or dissuades a lot of students from going into accounting. So they'll pick other majors that they're available out there. You just need a baccalaureate to start your career. The HSCPA, I know, is for it as well. It's encouraging that NASBA is now considering it, as well as the ICPA, and the 4 international firms came out with an article saying they support it too and have put some pressure on the AICPA to endorse that as well. And so I think it would be good for Hawaii to be the head of the curve for once and endorse and pass a law that changes that barrier to entry.
Anybody else have some input on that?
Isabella, on the public side, what is your opinion on the public side?
I would say 120 credits and find an alternate way to get experience. And for the CPAs that I know, they've mentioned that the extra classes they took to get a master's to not help them to become better CPAs. It's sort of religion.
Yeah.
I'm old enough where it was the 120.
Right.
It's so.
That's right.
I'm under the old standard when I passed the CPA, so we're kind of reverting back to that.
What I did mention too, the discussion at the regional meeting, it was 120 plus 2 years. I know in our agenda here, we're considering 120 plus 1. As far as the support or opposition from NASBA, it wasn't, strong as it was before, but the term substantial equivalency came up, and as long as it was substantially equivalent, whatever that definition could mean, because obviously the issue of mobility comes up. And if you're substantially equivalent, then you maybe pass that muster, but I don't know if I think, like I said, I'm old enough too. It was like 120 plus 2, which is how it used to be. So,
We came out okay.
I like to think so. But yeah, that and as far as a board, I mean, I would support that if I got all your support. I mean, and mechanically or however we move forward on that. How do we do that mechanically? But I mean,
I'll just, my comment is I'm also in favor of that. I'm not sure about 1 year versus 2 years. I also went under I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was closer to 2 years than 1 year.
Right.
I would say it's the unofficial discussion that I heard at the meeting is that the 30 hours is dead and they're just trying to figure out exactly how to deal with that now. It's not official, but that's what the most is saying. So, but mobility is the big issue that they're concerned with now, making sure that there's the equivalency that allows people to still
practice across states.
practice across the country. So,
But I didn't say anything about 1 or 2 years, because 2 years seems like a lot more training, a lot more learning, that it's more equivalent than 1 year.
Yeah, the 1 year wasn't really brought up.
Okay.
It was, like I said, the mantra, the thing was 120 plus 2. And yeah, I mean, I guess, like I said, I agree with that because that's how we got licensed, or maybe not John, he's not, but from a past standpoint, that's kind of where we were and where we want to move back to that, maybe.
So I would just echo what Wendell said. I agree with that. And I think, the cost is the primary issue. And I think so dropping it back to 120 gets rid of that issue. I don't know if going from 2 years to 1 year addresses
Yeah, I like
what
that.
issue it addresses. And so I'm concerned with that. I think you would, if the 2 years is still limiting people from coming in, then you could take a look. But at this point, I mean, everybody here has done at least 2 years.
And I think that's good for the employers too, right?
Right.
We make an investment when we hire, and if they're there for 2 years, and you really learn a lot that second year, in my opinion.
Well, from a protection of the public standpoint, you can go hang your shingle out after 1 year. You can sign an audit report. I don't know if that's really what we want to do. after 1 year. There's a lot to learn. I don't know if anybody really learns it in 2. So, yeah, I don't. But I definitely am in agreement with the 120. I think that the years of experience, we can explore, further. I'm definitely in agreement. Sounds like the rest of the US is as well.
Perfect. Catching up to us.
Yeah, and I think in our materials, we're provided with the article from regarding California to South Carolina states address CPA shortage, and what it was talking. Maybe moving towards away from the 1C for the extra 30. So yeah, we should make I guess, moves to make that change. Right?
I hear the 120. What about the experience part? You gonna talk about that later or?
I would trend more in the area of 2 years
So 120 credits.
plus 2. Because I think that's kind of a par with what other states are talking about too. And
Do you know how many states are moving towards that direction or already there?
yeah, like I said, I think it was Minnesota, Carolina. I want to say Arkansas. But, I think in our materials, it was. Was it Washington State? Yeah, yeah, I can get back to you on that, but, yeah, I mean, there's some states already, yeah, moving forward.
So is that we have to go vote or you gonna just go by consensus until we? And board with.
Well, mechanically, how do we do that? We as the board do it? Or we ask you guys to do it, or?
If it requires either a law change or only a rule change. So depending on where it talks about your under 50-hour credit, or month of experience, or that. If it's in your law, and then if it's in your law, says that will require everything.
Correct.
If it's in your rules, we can do it by that.
I took up that, it's gonna require a law change. Both of them.
So.
The best we could do is basically support an initiative. That's right, so that which is.
It may not necessarily be an admin bill. Because it's everybody that is above us. Right? So they may not take that up with the package for the departments. So I would also recommend that you start, since you come up with a draft. So you guys review it, start looking for organization. Organization for to find it, a legislative. That way all the board does is support it.
Yeah.
But we can help draft it and present it to the organization. But the other thing is you want to get all the stakeholders involved now. So that when it gets to the hearing, everybody's on the same. You don't want to be fighting with anybody else.
So action, we need an action item. The board right now, we need to approve action.
A consensus.
Yeah, I think, well, we have quorum here right now. I mean, we have 6 of us.
So just ask, does anybody not agree with going towards the 120 credits?
Yeah, is anybody opposed to that? Yeah, no, I think we have a consensus that we want to move in that direction. 120 plus 2.
I think NASDAQ's gonna wanna try to put out rules that they can suggest that everybody adopts at some point. That's what they're trying to get to, I think. Their acronym SPP or something like that. They're trying to get to something that they're gonna recommend.
Can I ask for clarification? Is this an option besides the 150? And so it's 2 pathways or you just eliminating the 150 hours?
I think it would be an option because I think it was an option before too. You could get a master's degree in place of the experience.
I think if the years were different, you might consider that being an option, but if it's just the credits, then one is just a lower bar than the other, right? On your way to 150, you have to pass 120. So it's not, it's only an option if we were to explore like maybe third year of experience, like you drop it to 120 and you add, then I think that would be cool. But now that we're saying 120 in just 2 years, it kind of just seems like that's just the new way. Nothing stops you from getting 150 or 180.
When we did the last, when it changed prior, back in 2000, the old, it was kind of like a grandfather rule, right? In other words, the old, in fact, I think to today, it's still, that's how it is. If by some unexplained reason you didn't get your license prior to 2000, but you had all your requirements and they submitted it based on that old rules, I think if you look at the HRS now, you would have to approve them on the old rules because it's still there.
Do you know why we changed from 120 to 150?
Well, yeah, of course, it was because nationwide, they wanted to elevate the profession
With the 30 hours.
with just more education.
Advanced degree, like a law degree.
Yeah, they wanted to make it more like an advanced degree, more like the attorneys and the doctors and the dentists. Well, you know, I mean, medical profession, I should say, you know, going to additional dental school, law school. You know,
And 120 credits will still equal a bachelor's, at least at the minimum.
Well, that's actually a good thing. They were talking about that too, that some schools are moving to like for a bachelor's or something like that. So they were talking about making that more,
fine.
oh yeah, not the number 120, but a bachelor's or something like that, you know, that allows, if schools change that, you don't have to go amend your law again. So that's something else that was brought up.
Look at credits as well as the degree. In their laws and rules, if it's specifically.
Our laws don't require you to have a bachelor's in accounting. You can have a bachelor's in anything. And you have to take accounting specific credits and then business related. So that's all laid out for us already. So as far as whether or not, yeah, that's why it's 120 credits. Your mix of credits has to be X amount of upper level accounting and then it split to 300 and 400 level versus as well for business. You have, and then there's different pathways within that to make that work. If it's credits, if it's semesters, right, quarters versus semesters. So on and so forth. So yeah, that's all laid out, but you don't need a bachelor's in accounting. No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yeah, sorry for skipping over that. Okay, again, maybe reset to agenda item number 3. The approval of the minutes of open executive session. Again, I don't think we have any public testimony, but I ask again, is there any public testimony for this agenda item?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have anyone requesting to provide testimony.
Okay, double motion to move into executive session to discuss the executive session minutes from the May 31st meeting.
John, so moved.
Wendell, second.
I will take a vote to move into executive session. Robert Karahara.
So,
Gary.
yes, sorry.
Alex Smith.
Yes.
Wendell Lee.
Yes.
John Arbos.
Yes.
Gary Sherrill, yes. Okay, let's move into executive session.
Right here.
an Indian.
Okay, we're back in open session on agenda item number 3, approval of minutes of the May 31st open session. Any revisions, corrections? Anybody? I do have a couple. If the open session minutes draft under correspondence, and the discussions take place. I don't know how to reference this, but it's about a third of the way down.
What page?
Page 4. Maybe 1/4 of the way down, where it said they do have permits to practice.
Okay, so is that substantive changes or just typos, basically?
I think it's kind of substantive.
Can be exact.
You should see that area, it says they do have permits to practice. Got that sentence? You got it? Okay, so that sentence should read, they do have permits to practice. They do have to associate the PTP with an AFPTP. So it's, right now it says they do have associate with that PTP. So the sentence should read, they do have to associate the PTP with a FPTP. Okay, and then the sentence after that, it does say the contracts are signed by the firm as author, but I believe that should be auditor. As in the next sentence, the firm is the auditor, not author. Okay, and then on page 5, it says Mr. Kondo, but it's Mr. Kondo. So yeah. Okay. So can I have, a motion to approve the open session minutes with those changes?
Executive session minutes as amended, both of them are amended.
Oh, and executive session minutes as amended.
Wendell, so move.
Alex, I'll second.
Take a vote. Albert Kawahara,
Yes.
Isabella Gary, Alex Smith. Yes. Wendell Lee,
Yes.
John Harbaugh. No. Gary Miyashiro, yes. Motion carried. All right, moving on to agenda item number 4. Is there any public testimony in relation to this agenda item?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have anyone requesting to provide testimony.
Okay, Hector, Executive Officer's report.
For part A, basically Bloomberg News had an article and they tried to read every state to get their opinion, basically. And there was an article from Bloomberg, and it connects to what Gary actually talked about earlier. And that title, of course, is from California to South Carolina. Basically, some states now are offering the CPA so that the education portion will be 120, as Gary already mentioned earlier. And the problem now is just trying to come up with alternatives, pathways, basically, to make the requirements. So just like Alex mentioned earlier, I guess at the meeting they mentioned 120 is in basically, but they're just trying to figure out if it's 1 year, 2 years additional. And that's what the article talk about. AICPA, the only concern that they have, basically, according to the article, is the mobility portion. If a state moves from 120 to 1 year, 120 to 2 years, then they're saying that the standard is gone, and therefore some states may not recognize the license from one state to the other. But if they can, based on the article, if they can say 120 is the standard as long as they have those met, AICPA might be okay with it. That's the bottom line of that article. So again, it connects to what Gary talked about earlier on the 120. So it looks like most states are moving to that direction, 120. And the other one is going to be the expected audit that everybody will be receiving. We will be sending out 10% of the population of the CPAs. For the CPA, they will be asking for the ethics course, basically. And the FPTP, the PTP will be for the, it would have to do with your CE courses. And for the FPTP, every 3 years, there's a, they are required to submit. And all those firms that receives those passing or failing, they are supposed to submit to us.
The peer reviews.
Yes, and if we haven't received them at a certain date, then they will be sent out a notice saying that we haven't received them yet. And that's what the FPTP will be about. We have not received those review yet, the peer reviews.
Okay, so just to clarify then, the individual CPA audit is to audit the permits to practice and their CE requirements?
For the CPA, just the CPA itself, holders, no PTP.
Right.
Just the ethics course, yes.
Oh, the ethics course,
Yeah.
I see.
The FPTP is the CE courses.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's not a continuing education audit, it's just the ethics portion.
For the CPA,
license.
just in the practicing, yeah. Only those, because if you only have a CPA, you're not required to practice anyway. You cannot practice in Hawaii, so
And then the firm PTP is the
reviews.
people who said that they do a test work
Yes,
and that if they submitted a peer review.
yes. And if we haven't received them yet, then they will be
Okay.
receiving those notifications.
So just out of curiosity, for the FPTP, is it still a 10% sample or is it all?
10%, yeah.
Okay, just checking. But if we now want to do that, I was gonna say at the board, can we say check all or? But then I guess we too hectic that, then we all gotta come in and check it. Okay. It's a lot of work. Okay, no, 10% is good. Want to clarify that. That's it. Okay. All right, next agenda item, number 5. The request from the Office of the Legislative Audit regarding permits to practice, deferred from the last meeting. Any public testimony prior to discussion of this item?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have anyone requesting to provide testimony.
Okay, but just as a matter of guess, I think we see, from the here, in our meeting. Okay, so from the last meeting, we did have an inquiry from, the Office of the Legislative Auditor and Mr. Les Condon provided us with the questions, which, we will discuss here in this meeting. Hold on. All right, so we all had the questions from last time and was asking for the board's opinion on these sections more in relation to who needs to be licensed with a permit to practice in Hawaii. So I'll just read the question and then into with a discussion of responses. Question 1, may the firm lawfully issue reports on financial statements solely under the legal name of the firm without attribution to an individual principal of the firm? So I believe in this particular response to this question, you can issue the financial report under the firm. And I guess the term attribution is, it doesn't reference the individual partner of the firm in the report, but you can issue a report on financial statements under the legal name of the firm. But it does then get a little bit deeper where the engagement partner, or which is referring to the individual principal of the firm, would be the person responsible for issuing that report. Do you agree?
I agree with that.
Okay, so under that question, and again, we go back to the audit standards. Thing, in the AICP audit standards, it does refer to the responsibility of the engagement partner, which in this particular question is the individual principal of the firm.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Mr. Kondo,
I'm Les Kondo, I'm the state auditor. Thank you for referring to me as the legislative auditor, but I'm the
well, that's
state.
where the question came from.
I hear you. I think we're interested to understand how the board interprets the statute and the administrative rules. So we can interpret, and we have CPAs and other lawyers in my office, and we can interpret the AICPA and other standards and other requirements. I think our questions relate to how the board construes the law and the administrative rules, because that to me is much more of your purview versus other requirements. So I just wanted to clarify our question. It really is about how you construe the legal requirements for the practice of public accountancy in the state of Hawaii. But we can appreciate that you're referring to AICPA standards and other standards, but our question is really the legal framework in the state of Hawaii, which I understand this board is the
Which is
primary.
under section 466-3, the practice of public accountancy.
Correct, as well as the administrative rules associated with 466. Correct. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you guys.
Just leave there, just in case you have any questions.
And I think under the definition of practice of public accountancy, a firm may lawfully issue reports on financial statements solely under the legal name of the firm. And I think it's provided certain conditions are met and where you have the firm permit to practice. And then you have properly licensed personnel, and that the firm accepts responsibility for that report. So that's where I believe, can hook in the AICPA professional standards on that and how an engagement partner would act. Right? In other words, they're responsible for that.
I think our question, our question is really about firms that are not local firms. Local firms that are.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess I appreciate the answer. But I think that for me, it would be helpful if you hook it into the statutory or the specific rule requirement where that may be supported. Because the rules are not, no offense to the board, but the rules are not very clear and well written to me. It seems like there was an attempt to somehow capture the national firms that don't have a local presence, and it's not, in my opinion, captured very well. And that's why we're here asking questions about when we have a firm that has a permit to practice, but you have, whether it's a principal, whether it's a manager, somebody else that's not licensed and permitted in the state of Hawaii, has no local presence, doesn't live here, in other words. It's unclear to us as to how that gets hooked in. In other words, that person, even if he's the principal on the audit, how that person is required to have a permit and a license. And then that goes up to whether it's the review partner or somebody that's doing quality control review, and it goes down to the people that are actually in the field doing the actual work, so to speak. But that's kind of really, in a nutshell, all of these questions. Right. So I'm sorry if you understood that, and I'm just wasting your time and adding more time to the meeting. So I apologize, but when I hear what you're saying, it didn't register to me that the question that we were asking and the reasons for us asking the question are exactly what you're responding to. So I apologize if I misunderstood.
Well, I think all the questions are related, right? Yes. Question 1, question 2, question 3, which is, the questions are all in front of you. I don't know if you guys need me to read it. I think, and again, just if I can kind of cut to the chase a little bit, and we can discuss it in more detail, is that we feel the engagement, the person engagement partner who's in charge of the engagement is the who's signing the report on behalf of the firm,
You can sign the firm's name.
signs the firm's name, correct, is the one that needs to have the proper licensing here, which that engagement partner will have to be properly licensed in Hawaii with a permit to practice, individual permit to practice. Because I think you're saying that the firm already has a firm permit to practice in Hawaii. The question becomes, who has to have the individual permit to practice?
Licensed and have the individual.
Correct. Right. In other words, you won't have a permit unless you have a license.
Correct. Is that the board's opinion? I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but is that a discussion? You guys had a discussion already? And you,
No.
is this your?
This is the discussion right here, looking at the 466.3 and, again, I'm throwing it out there, but that's my understanding of it. And based on, let's say, my understanding of the, my view, and I'm sure it was understanding, of the AICPA standards and the definition of an engagement partner under the audit standards, right? The engagement partner is the ultimate responsibility of performing the engagement. It cannot be somebody else performing the engagement, they just signed the report, right? That's what you're asking.
Well, we don't know who signed the report because it said, you know, like using a local firm like Acuity, it says Acuity LLP. I don't know if Corey Kubota, the managing partner, signed the firm. I don't know if the engagement partner signed the report. All I know, it says Acuity LLP. So we don't require any disclosure as to who actually signed the firm's name. So if you're suggesting that that's required to be the engagement partner that signs the firm's name, we contract with the firm. We don't contract with the individual. We have no knowledge as to who is signing the report on behalf of the firm. And I'm not sure there's any other kind of requirements anywhere else, whether it's AICPA guidance or statutory legal guidance, legal requirements on that issue. Local firms are really easy because everyone needs to be licensed and permitted, right? All of the individuals in a local firm, licensed and permitted, right? It's the mainland guys that are the question that's getting why we're talking about it. So it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter maybe as to whether or not Corey Kubota, the managing partner of Acuity, signs Acuity LLP, which I believe probably he does, even though he's not the engagement partner on the project. It might be somebody else. So that would be a violation under what you just described because he's not the engagement partner. But we really don't know that because we'd have to do further inquiry to establish who signed the document on behalf of the firm. So
I would say, so I think you're missing a step here at the
I am,
beginning. Yeah, no, perfect. At the beginning of this, what you get is an engagement letter.
correct.
The engagement letter would not be signed by the firm. The partner that is responsible for that engagement has to sign the engagement letter.
Well, we require them to identify in their RFP, in the proposal,
Sure.
the team, and that would include the engagement partner.
Absolutely.
So we know all of that.
Yeah, so that's the person ultimately, I guess maybe it's coming down to if you sign as a firm, does that mean that the individual that signs it has any responsibility? And the answer is the engagement partner is the person that's responsible to sign that name on, even if you're signing for the firm.
Where is that required? Is that somewhere in AICPA standards? Is that certainly not in the statute or the rules? Is that, and I'm not arguing with you, I just want to have better understanding.
Yeah, well, I think it
as to
goes
where-
back to that would go back to the engagement letter. And then that would go into your AICPA rules, yeah, and you know, how it would go back into your AICPA.
Okay, I understand the engagement partner is the person responsible for the engagement.
Mhm.
But I don't know anywhere where it says, and maybe you guys, I'm not a CPA, you guys can guide me to the AICPA provision that requires whoever signs the firm's name to have been the engagement partner. That's the question, and maybe that's what you and I are discussing. I'm unclear as to where that requirement is coming from. Okay. So, but maybe that's a separate issue. Maybe if the engagement partner, whether he signs or not, if he has to be licensed and permitted to lead the audit, then we avoid the question about who signs the document. It's just the board believes the engagement partner needs to be licensed and permitted, and how far that goes into different levels of the engagement. You guys can provide us guidance, but I would again ask that if you can hook into me the rule or the statute so we can tell people, the board, this is their guidance and it's based upon their interpretation of these provisions. And you know, we've looked at it many, many times, and we honestly can see why firm permit to practice is all is needed. And maybe that's a defect in the rules because there's so many references to the firm permit to practice. And, you know, even in the definition in the rules about what constitutes the practice of public accountancy, it's an individual or a firm, not and a firm, or a firm that holds itself out to provide these services. So when it says or the firm seems to be practicing public accountancy under the definition in the rules. And like I said, it could be just a defect in how the rules were drafted. And
Right, so you referenced the rule 1671-24, right? In your in your inquiry. So you said being a firm permit to practice under section 466-7 and section 1671-24.
what I was just talking about was the definition in 1671-8, which is the definitions, and it includes the definition of public accounting practice or public practice.
Right, and then when I was kind of going to the 1671-24B, where the firm, so the firm permit to practice.
Yes.
And the permit to practice public accountancy, a firm engaged in public accounting shall file an application basically to get the firm permit.
Yes.
I think item B on that says if the firm has no permanent office in the state and no principals who are residents of the state or principals who are engaged in public accounting practice in this state, the firm shall list a principal with a current Hawaii individual permit to practice.
Yes.
Right,
So that was the situation that we had, except the principal who was listed and associated with the firm permit to practice was not on the audit. So it was not the principal that led the engagement.
yes, that's what you're saying. And then, so then therefore, our rules and statutes may not be specifically clear on that, but then if they go back to AICPA rules on how a licensed CPA should act. Right, and that's where we're coming from, I think, they, as properly licensed members of the profession, basically under the ICPA, that's where we kick to those standards, and it says the code of professional conduct will say that the engagement partner is responsible for the performance of the audit, not just some random person who's listed as the individual permit holder linked to the firm permit to practice.
I don't think we disagree there that the engagement partner, he's responsible.
Correct.
Right, so even in the situation that we experienced where the engagement partner didn't have a permit to practice, there's no doubt in my mind that person, even without a license, if he's the engagement partner, he's licensed somewhere else, but he is responsible for the audit.
Correct.
Right, so that's, you and I are not disagreeing on that.
Yes.
It's, I think that our question, which I'm not sure I'm articulating it very well, is really, so we don't disagree, the engagement partner is responsible. The question is, does he have license and permit? That's to me, a different question. Because he's responsible, we're gonna hold him responsible, we're gonna hold the firm responsible. Firm is permitted, which is required. It's unclear whether or not that engagement partner needs to be permitted and licensed. And to me, a lot of the people below the engagement partner, even though they may not be responsible for the report, they're doing the real work. You know, I mean, it's the manager, it's other people that are reviewing work papers. Right. They're really doing the real work, and the engagement partner may not be reviewing it as thoroughly as the manager, but they are taking responsibility for the audit. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, it seems to me if you talk about the practice of public accountancy, it's below the level of, if you want to say that the engagement partner must be licensed and permitted, because he's taking responsibility for the report, other people actually performing Public Accountancy, maybe even more than the engagement partner, because they're actually doing the work. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but ultimately, it's, I know in the assumption maybe that the engagement partner is not doing as thorough a job might be a little flawed in the sense that the engagement partner better be making sure that those people.
No, I'm not
the buck is
suggesting
gonna
he's not
stop.
doing a thorough job.
They're
I'm
gonna
saying
be
he's not looking at as detailed and thorough as the manager, for instance.
So
Like a different level of review.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but I think the one maybe part to this is that the location of the audits are being performed in Hawaii. Right?
Well, it's a Hawaii organization. They may be
Absolutely. Okay, so-
performing the work in
The
Utah or
Yeah,
somewhere.
the board's purview is protection of the public for the state of Hawaii, and so the engagement partner would have to be a CPA licensed in the state of Hawaii to be able to represent to anybody in Hawaii that he was a CPA. So if he was licensed in a different state and he said, I'm a CPA, for the code of professional conduct, he's in violation.
Understood.
He's not able to say that. So the moment he signs that engagement letter and hands it, he's making a representation that he is certified and licensed in the state of Hawaii.
Nobody, and I understand
Yes.
this, it's very clear that you cannot represent yourself to be a CPA.
Without that.
Put CPA after your name, your email, whatever,
Sure.
without being licensed and permitted. So we looked at that.
Licensed and permitted where? I want to, okay, perfect, sure.
No reference anywhere, email, signature block, that this person is using CPA, because that would be clearly a violation. You cannot use the CPA after your name unless you're licensed and permitted here. So we looked at that too, and there's no reference in any documents, proposals, engagement letters, email, signature blocks where the guy puts CPA after his name. So we checked that one. So
But he signs your engagement letter.
he signs it on behalf of we contract, we contract not with him, we contract with the firm. He signs the contract probably. It may not be him, it may be someone above him or somewhere else.
Okay.
But it's someone signs and that's a person's signature, right? But it's on behalf of the firm, and then we get, some kind of support that they're authorized to sign on behalf of the firm. So someone is signing. And it could be somebody that's not even a CPA, it could be their chief legal officer. But we accept it as long as they are authorized to contract on behalf of the firm. In terms of other kinds of documents that we get from them, engagement letter, there is a signature on it, but it's very modified because the engagement is with us, but the expectations are to the auditee. So generally, because the relationship is usually auditor to auditee, that letter is expressing what you're going to do, but also your expectations and additional cost. We don't allow that because there's no contractual relationship between the auditor and the auditee. We're the contractor, we're the middle position. So they do provide us with an engagement letter, but it's very different. It is signed. I'm pretty sure it's signed by the engagement partner. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just rambling a little, but that's our process. It's very different, but I mean, if that's what the board believes, then that's fine. We'll just let everyone know. And I think at this point, we are requiring engagement partners to be licensed and permitted. We are also requiring.
Licensed and permitted in the state of Hawaii. Got it.
Yeah, I don't think there's another permit to.
I mean, you could be licensed in a different state. I just want to be clear on what
You can get a permit to practice without a license too?
No?
Okay, anyway, and then we're also requiring managers, project managers who are CPAs to be licensed and permitted in the state of Hawaii, but that's because that became our policy now.
Okay.
Right, it's not a legal requirement, at least I'm not sure it's a legal requirement, but it just seems to me that, like I was mentioning, not to suggest the engagement partner isn't doing work, but I feel like the manager is probably a little more into the dirt in terms of the audit. So we decided, because it became an issue, we're going to, as a policy, require that. So that's how we're operating right now, but whether it's legally required or not, it really doesn't totally matter at this point since that's our policy. But I think we wanted to understand what the legal requirement is, or at least what the board's guidance on the legal requirement is. But I hear what you're saying. I just would be more comfortable if you could hook it into, and maybe your AG can help you, but you could hook it into one of the specific provisions instead of, we're reading, me and you, Chair, we're reading these things and it seems like there's ambiguity. And then you guys are hooking it in through some other AICPA requirements and other things. I don't know if when I read the law within the four corners of the document, I don't see that. And as a lawyer, that's how we look at the legal requirements to me. But I hear what you're saying, but if that's the board's guidance, that's fine. Because like I said, that's our policy right now. And now we can tell people when they push back that not only is our policy, but the board's guidance is you need to be licensed and permitted in the state of Hawaii.
Yeah.
Okay, so, under AU-C, section 2208,
Where's that E?
AU.
AU is the AICPA standards, which you're it's outside of your.
Sent you that section. Quality control for an engagement conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Under this section number 9, sorry, definitions. Engagement partner, the partner or other person in the firm who is responsible for the audit engagement and its performance and for the auditor's report that is issued on behalf of the firm and who is required has the appropriate authority from a professional, legal, or regulatory body, this board. So based on the board's statutes referring to AICPA standards, they're requiring a license based on this definition. What section? Oh, sorry. So if you're asking specifically if the engagement partner has to have a license, the answer is yes. What I'm hearing from the board, citing that specific section, AU-C, section 2208.
What is the section, I'm sorry, Leanne, in the statute 466 that references the VIP CPA standard?
The definition of a test.
I'm sorry?
The definition of a test. I think it's in.
Okay. It's okay, we can look at it outside of it. We don't need to make. We don't need to make
An audit or other engagement to be performed in accordance with the statements on auditing standards of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, AICPA.
I'm sorry.
That's under 463. That means definition.
And it's not a test.
Under the definition of a test.
I don't see a definition of test.
Under 466-3.
Here, okay, oh,
Oh, a test. Oh, a test. I'm sorry. I heard a test. Sorry, it's okay. I got it. Thank you. I'm sorry. I cannot hear so good. I thought I only couldn't see very good.
Yes, the definition, that's why the board is trying to refer to the AICPA standards. So based on that and definition of engagement partner, I think what the board is saying, based on your inquiry about engagement partner having to be licensed as a Hawaii CPA with the current practice.
Yes. And, at the risk of going down the road again, with your hypothetical with the manager, the law does not require the manager to be licensed in the state of Hawaii. If that is the state auditor's office's requirement, that's fine, but that would not be the board's purview because that manager could conceivably, and again, in theory, not ever use the word CPA and not even be licensed in the state of Hawaii, but then would never be representing that because they would never be signing the engagement letter or the audit report. And the signature on the audit report, even if it says the firm's name, is really what makes that representation. The engagement letter and audit. That's where the representation that you're a CPA to a person in the state of Hawaii then transitions into the board's purview and requires you to have a license.
Would it be a suggestion that we somehow identify who's signing?
I definitely think you should. I think you kind of have to. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You gotta know who's, again, that's part of the AICPA.
Okay, so the document is signed Acuity LLP. Sorry if Acuity is listening.
With document, the,
How do you know who signed it?
Under the, and again, I don't have the specific reference under the AICPA, code of conduct, but in the engagement letters, they do specify that you need to name the engagement lead or the engagement partner in the engagement letter. So whether that partner signs the engagement letter or is identified in the engagement letter, they should be in there.
Well, I understand. I think that we're on the same page about the
Yeah.
engagement partner. But my question is, if it needs to be signed by that engagement partner, do we need to verify that? How do we know who signs it? There's an assumption that you guys are making, and I'm not saying that I disagree with the assumption that it's the engagement partner that is signing Acuity LLP, but I don't know for a fact unless somebody.
I think that might
tells me
be
that.
semantics, I guess. I mean, as far as the physical act of signing, I mean, I think well, I guess interpretation, what do you call it? Assumption is that they're signing on behalf of the firm. Now, whether they physically actually do the signature, I don't.
Well, okay, I may be misunderstanding that. I thought that you guys were saying that in your, at least in this discussion, that it's actually the engagement partner who physically signs the firm's name, but I hear the chair suggesting that that may not be required.
Yeah, I mean, I think from our perspective, like like you said, in a small firm, there's only gonna be a handful of people, but this is maybe looking at the firms that you're dealing with, right? It might be a little bit larger. Should be one engagement.
Correct. There is, we identified that.
For the engagement. But as far as, signing the report, I mean, I don't practice in that world, but, I've seen signatures that are standard DocuSign, that the firm name.
Today.
Or physically, they're not the actual in the act of manually signing a signature, but they are representing that they are the partner or owner or equity owner of the firm that is actively engaging you for services, or you're engaging them for services, and they should be the one responsible.
so the physical act of signing may not mean as much as you think. Ultimately, it boils down to that specific person is responsible.
Understood. Okay, so basically what you folks, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
But I think what you guys are saying is the signature is irrelevant. It's just whoever is identified as the engagement partner on the project or on the audit, they need to be licensed in the state of Hawaii and permitted in the state of Hawaii.
Exactly, yes.
And that's the line that you draw. And if we make that line lower, that's fine. We can always lower the floor. We can't raise the floor. So that's what I understand the discussion to be.
When you say raise that meaning going down to the staff.
Yeah, I can make the secretary if I wanted to be licensed and permitted in the state of Hawaii. But I can't say the principal doesn't have to be in my contracts with,
Right,
unless they're gonna practice illegally.
right, if you.
So I can lower that bar or lower the floor. I just cannot raise it above the line the guidance line that you guys have drawn. Understood.
Can I just clarify, because you mentioned the word principal.
Right, but they
For a
just.
Hawaii firm permit to practice, you need to name a principal, whether they reside in state or out of state. So I'm just saying,
Right.
because what you just said is like the principal doesn't have to have a license, but they still do in Hawaii.
No, that's not what I was saying. I'm sorry. I didn't, if that's what I said, I didn't.
Principal with a firm permit to practice, and that principal has to have a CPA license with a permit to practice.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be the principal on my project. There needs to be one principal associated with the firm
Correct.
that's licensed and permitted in the state of Hawaii. Understood, but that wasn't the situation. We were talking about a different principal that was not associated with the firm because he didn't have a permit to practice.
So from a technical standpoint, since I get where you're going with this. You have a principal that is not part of your engagement, right? But he's in the state of Hawaii, so you have this thing. So now all you have to do is exactly what, you came in the first case, which is get your engagement partner to license himself in the state of Hawaii and get a permit. He doesn't even have to live here because he already has a firm permit that he can fall under.
Correct.
But at that point, he just has to go through the licensing and he clearly will make all the requirements, and then by that point, now he falls under Voice a board purview,
Understood.
and then he's responsible for your engagement. Should something go wrong, there's a name and a person that then becomes responsible for that.
No, I understand. I mean, even in the situation you were describing, we have nobody that lives in the state of Hawaii. But you're still required to have a principal who is licensed and permitted, irrespective if they live here, reside here, do work here. Yeah, understood.
Did we answer all your questions?
I think so. I mean, the main question,
Well, there was your last question, which, we won't. You asked the, kind of for a specific response on what, what is the word, what constitutes the practice of public accountancy more specifically. I think from that respect, I mean, there is no specific, we're not gonna lay out every single thing that CPA does, right? I mean, I think it's, the scope of services under the practice of public accountancy is kind of pretty large. I can imagine. So, as far as looking for like a laundry list of things that, I think that's what you're looking for, of what we can do. I don't know if we're gonna be able to. do
okay,
that.
no, I think where I was coming from is I'm a lawyer. And you know that there's, in a law firm, there's partners, engagement partner, there's a partner, and you could be the very fresh out of law school associate, but you're still practicing law. You know, that's a similar ambiguous, vague definition as the
Right.
practice of public accountancy.
Right.
You gotta be licensed in the state of Hawaii to practice law.
Right.
So in the same analogy, what about the manager of the audit? I mean, that person is practicing public accountancy, in my opinion, even though I'm not just like the first year associate or the senior associate or the junior partner. They may not sign the document or sign the engagement letter. They may not sign the bills, but certainly their time is being billed. But they're practicing law in the state of Hawaii. And if they were doing that without a Hawaii legal license, law license, that would be illegal. So that's kind of where that question came from, as to where that line stops, what that
I
means.
see.
And we have paralegals, just like you have people who are doing accounting that are not CPAs that do work on the project. But there is a line in terms of what the vague definition of practice of law. So that's kind of what the question was. And that's kind of the questions I was asking about the manager. It's our policy. Maybe it's because it's my opinion that they're practicing public accountancy under that definition. So at least at the manager level, that person is going to now be licensed and permitted. So that's where the question was coming from, Chair. And it wasn't a request to every single activity that you or somebody else might do, but it's really the definition, or the definition is very vague.
I just want to clarify that. I think that this was, as you said, they're all somewhat related, and I think what we were trying to. My name is Megan Johnson. I'm the general counsel for the state auditor. I think we were just trying to get a sense of, in terms of other people in a CPA firm who are not CPAs, they could be, fresh out of undergrad. And so we wanted to understand, like, are they, at what point, depending on what type of work, they're still doing the work. Some of these people are coming to our clients' offices, they're doing field work. I mean, so would you consider what they're doing to also be the practice of a public accountancy, in which case, so we're just trying to, I guess, like in different ways, trying to phrase the question and get a better understanding holistically of, what types of services and what, just the nature of the services. And then, then who in the firm do we need to make sure that they're complying and comporting with, like, whatever parameters you're setting for who needs to be duly, like,
Sure, I
licensed.
can,
and permitted.
let me take a stab at that, and I'll take two hats, okay? So Board of Accountancy hat goes on, and our line becomes signing the audit report, which engagement partner, that's where the board purview comes. Anything under that might not hit our line, right? That's where it might not hit our line.
Oh, it doesn't hit your line.
That's where it stops. So as long as that person is licensed in the state and permitted, fine. Then I take that off, and as a partner in my firm, I am responsible for everybody under me, meaning the manager, the staffers, whatever it is, whether they fall under their licensing to make sure that they meet their CPE requirements, their ethics, all of that falls under that individual firm's purview. And I think that's where we kind of separate it.
The easy part.
Like, we don't want to dive into, now, if the state auditor's office wants to have a higher level of service by demanding that the people engaged on that team have certain, hey, that's awesome. That's a great audit you're gonna get out of it. And some firms like mine might not be able to provide you with that. We don't have that kind of level of service, but that wouldn't really fall to where the board, that wouldn't be for us here.
Yeah, and you just reminded me that I misspoke. We can raise the bar, not lower the bar. But anyway, no, but for the local firms, everyone who's a CPA, they have to have a Hawaii license and they have to have a Hawaii permit to practice. Clear. But
So I don't want to correct you. That's not correct.
oh, is that not? I'm sorry. I thought if you're a Hawaii CPA, you need to have a license and a permit to practice.
Oh, to say you're a CPA
To engage in the practice of public accountancy.
and to sign an audit report, you do,
Okay,
but
right.
you could conceivably, in theory, you could conceivably be a licensed CPA, but you don't go through the permit to practice. You just have a license, but you are not allowed to tell clients or anybody else that you are a CPA. In fact, under your name, you would write blank, 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 and then you're not in the practice of public accounting.
Okay.
And so you could do that. You could still work on an engagement. And as long as you didn't sign the audit report and you fell under an engagement partner that did, perfectly fine, perfectly legal to do the work. So you don't have to be that. The person that has to be that, because you don't have to get licensed. You could do, like you said, you have paralegals, you have, people fresh out of law school, maybe they pass the bar. It's same difference, but they're still providing work that's eventually aggregating up to an audit report. But the one person responsible for that would be the engagement partner.
I think I mentioned this last time. I know it's a couple of months ago, but the reason why the question is here is because we had a situation where we had a firm that issued a report. Firm had a permit, the partner didn't have a permit, so they had to recall and reissue the report once the partner had a permit. And the question is, what about the people below that didn't have license or permit? So now I understand the board's position is only the engagement partner needs to be licensed and permitted in the state of Hawaii. So we didn't want firms to have to recall and reissue reports when other people were not licensed and permitted. So that may be our standard, but it's not the board's position, interpretation. Understood.
Everybody, yeah,
We
you
would,
guys agree?
yeah,
Okay.
I think we agree. We would encourage as many of them who are working on these engagements for people in Hawaii to be licensed as certified and with the state of
And a
Hawaii,
challenge,
but that's not a requirement.
and a challenge just to gripe on behalf of, or to support the folks that are doing our audits that don't live here, because the board only meets every 2 months. Sometimes it's a challenge for them to get their license and permit in a timely manner so that they can compete on the RFPs. Because they're waiting, whether it's 2 months or whatever the period is, for you to consider their license application and their permit application. So griping on behalf of the folks that don't live here, because we hear that occasionally, that they're not able to propose on an audit because they can't jump through the hoops quick enough. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and your guidance. Appreciate it very much. Sorry I took so much of your time.
This is Megan. Are you going to issue us a written response?
Are you guys gonna vote? I assume you're all in together, but just so your minutes are clean, maybe you should come. Anyway, thank you.
Well, I think as far as like our response, we're gonna gather this discussion and summarize the discussion points in response to your question. So yes, as a board, we'll respond collectively. Obviously, we do have public members that may not totally understand the audit standards of the ICPA and all that. So I think we're gonna take some time to put that in a clear, logical response to you, and then issue it as the board. Is that kind of where we're going?
And honestly, there's no real urgency, given that I mentioned our policy now. We've gone through our current cycle of RFP, so we have contracts in place for the next, I guess it's for the FY24 cycle. So we'll be doing this again come January, February, but given that we now established this policy to require managers and engagement partners to be licensed and permitted in the state of Hawaii, we appreciate your response and we look forward to it, but at this point, the urgency is kind of dissipated a little, but thank you again for
We
entertaining.
will respond.
Thank you. No, appreciate that very much. Thank you. Thank you all.
For January, I'm sure.
Is that when you're leaving?
No, okay.
Before that.
Anyway, thank you guys again.
Let's see. So from a discussion, I mean, I think everybody got the gist of that, I hope. And we'll draft a response to route amongst the board members. Is that mechanically the way to go, where I'll send it? And we'll draft something, Hector, with you guys, and then we'll route it among the board members. And then, I guess mechanically, at the next board meeting, I mean, say, yes, this is our response, and then, because right now, I think, right, everybody's kind of just has information in their head floating around, and then we'll probably put it into a concrete response and make it clear. I mean, I think that'll be the route to go, right? Yeah.
What?
As far as documenting a response, and then routing it to the board to get maybe further input after this discussion. And then we can finalize the response. Is that how it mechanically works? I mean, obviously, it's not gonna be for the members who are absent, but well, how do we go about issuing a response?
So first of all, based on your discussion.
Yeah.
And is the board okay with what you guys just informed him of in response to the engagement partner, the manager, and
Yes.
whatever? No, you asked him, I'm not them. You asked.
Yeah, I know, I just did. We were all in
Everybody
agreement.
was okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so based on that, then we can probably respond to the question, so staff will draft up a response.
Okay.
Based on your discussion today.
Yep.
Send it to all of, we're gonna probably send it to Christopher first. Sure, we're legal, and then we'll forward the final to you guys if you guys agree or not. Feel free to do it before we send it out. On the discussion only, do not add anything that wasn't discussed.
Will we have time to look at that prior to the meeting? So if there are any comments or feedback, we can do them for
Prior to the meeting.
next meeting.
The next meeting.
Oh, no. It's not going out, it's going out way before the next meeting.
Okay.
You won't have a lot of time to review it because you guys were involved in the discussion. It's gonna be basically what you
Right, so just like the minutes, you know, whereas like the minutes where we get a chance to review what was documented that was discussed, and then we get to have input on revisions. No.
We're not gonna wait till the next board meeting, I'm sorry. You guys already informed them of your decision. Based on that discussion,
Okay.
we can try to respond to the questions. Because now it's pretty much irrelevant. And then we will send it to Christopher. Once he reviews it, we'll send it to all of you. This is the proposed response we want to mail out or to the auditor, the state auditor.
Okay.
Ask Christopher a question. Is it your understanding that? I mean, he basically just asked a question whether the engagement partner had to be licensed in Hawaii. But we're answering all his questions, right? I mean, does that, what the board discussed today cover all of the questions that he asked?
I think so.
I believe so, because the questions are, I mean, maybe except the last one, the questions are all related, right? And they kind of build off of the first question. So I mean, I think it would be fairly simple to make a coherent response, right, to all the questions based on the discussion and agreement of what was said today.
It kind of just seems like if you get the core piece right, everything else falls in place. And the core piece is you cannot sign the engagement letter or the report, however he wants to define signing it, if you're not licensed in the state of Hawaii. It's just that simple.
And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't respond directly question for question, because I think you can say in reference to our discussion, at the last meeting, this is our response to your, because he redefined, he had to re-explain the questions in a different way to us
That's true.
throughout that process. Like if he had done that on the first meeting, we were trying to sit here, trying to respond with AUCs. That's not even what he was asking at the end of the day, right? So I would think a general response, question for question, would be responsive.
Yeah.
I would agree. It kind of just seemed like he was looking for cracks, and that's why I was hesitant to get too deep into those arguments.
I have an administrative question on the board. How do we call a timeout for a bathroom break?
Just go.
Recess. Recess. Recess.
Yes.
Come back. I know we got some items, but.
All good.
30 minutes into the meeting. I was like,
Good job, Gary.
okay, we back?
Yes.
Okay, we're back. We're on agenda item number 6 and 7. So it'd be CPA score extension requests and onto the applications. I see that there are some applicants here, but if you could hold tight, we'll be moving into executive session to evaluate personal information in relation to these agenda items, the extension requests and the applications. Related to also related to individuals applying for professional and vocational license cited in section 26-9. And we'll be able to consult with the board's attorney on questions and issues related to the board's duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities. So, if you have any questions, any of the applicants, at this time, we'll try and address them as we come out of executive session. Go ahead.
Okay, so those of you who signed in under the pseudonym applicant, can you change it so if you're an actual applicant on the agenda, we have your name? Rename yourself. So the board can go into executive session. We know you're here in case they have any questions for you. Please,
Okay. All right, so can I have a motion to move into executive session for these items?
This is John, so moved.
Wendell second.
Okay, I'll take a vote to move into executive session. Robert Kawahara,
Yes.
Isabella Gary,
Yes.
Alex Smith,
Yes.
Wendell Lee,
Yes.
John Arbuls,
Yes.
Karen Mashiro, yes. Okay, let's move into executive session.
Names.
Okay, are we in? Okay, we are back into regular session. Agenda item number 6. CPA scores extension requests. Is there any testimony from the public on this agenda item?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have anyone requesting to provide testimony.
Any discussion on this agenda item? Not, can I have a motion to approve the extension request for Selma Marino Young?
John, so moved.
Robert, second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the extension request for Thelma Marina Young. Vote. Robert Carhara,
Yes.
Bella Gary,
Yes.
Smith. Yes. Wendell Lee,
Yes.
John Armos.
Yes.
Gary Miyashiro, yes. Okay, the agenda item number 7. The applications, we have agenda item number 7A. Ratification of CPA permits to practice.
Yes, just read it.
Make,
Are you making a
Motion?
motion to approve?
should I make a motion to approve? Okay.
Up to you.
May I have a motion to approve the ratification of CPA permits to practice of Taylor A. Burns, Kevin K. Wilson, Cynthia May Gross, Daniel C. Reeves, Jessica N. McCloskey, Bryce W. Brasilier, Brett D. Engel, Brian W. Venzel, Cheryl Sheppel Marino, Michael H. Vermouth, Deborah G.C. Hiskala, Jason X. Lin, Joanne Arlene Souza, Carol L. Coley Brima, Brian M. Michelini, Randy Elizabeth Canoilani Varela, Joel Zablan, Ashley Marie Grace, Shari K. Danan, Michael C. Wu, Jeremy L. Dillard, Sally Jane Aubrey, Allison F. Alamoto, Rodleen A. Tangonan, Pushpita Kotikalapudi, Jin N. Kim, Emily Ann Smith, Jean Marie Young, Lauren Hugo, Chelsea C. Taketa. Item B, approval of firm names, Julie Hartshorn CPA Inc., CWA CPAs, Moon CPA LLC. And on to CPA applications, applicants. Nicholas Lee Hansen, Benjamin W. Green, Bradley Allen Wall, Christine N. Morgan, Jennifer M. K. Y. Taniguchi, Rachel Thompson, Stephen Cuppinggood, Virginia L. Jacinto, Rumze Atef Abdallah, Marie Lynn Stiegel, Molly Rose Mulholland, Puya Lee, Fuminori Matsubara, Leor Temkin, Justine Florence Arnold, Jinhua Lee, Rachel B. Moulton, Michelle Ann Jenkins, Yan Leanne Bowers, Billy J. Kim, Amanda Kronk, Ray Ann F. Baines, Wei Peng Liang, Kyle A. Kearney, and one CPE sponsor agreement for the Hawaii Estate Planning Council.
John, so moved.
Wendell, second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve all applicants at this agenda item. I will take a vote. Robert Karahara,
Yes.
Isabella Gary,
Yes.
Alex Smith,
Yes.
Wendell Lee,
Yes.
John Arbos.
Yes.
Aaron Miyashiro, yes. Motion approved.
1 second, I think there's a correction to B3 MUN CPAs. I think that should be MA and CPAs, but when we requested. Like leaving MUN and he started with all, it should just say MA.
Hold on. Let me get that. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's asking.
See, that's
Oh,
what.
MAS CP.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we amend the agenda because you ratified the wrong name.
Okay, so what is my,
We just make a motion to correct it. Yeah, make a motion to amend the agenda.
okay, can I have a motion to amend the agenda item number 7B3 from Moon CPA LLC to MAS CPA LLC?
This is John, so moved.
This is Robert, second.
Okay, motion to amend the agenda for that item. I'll take a vote. Robert Carhara,
Yes.
Isabella Gary, Alex Smith, yes. Wendell Lee.
Yes.
John Arbos.
Yes.
Jeremy Shiro, yes. Okay.
And then Gary, take a motion to approve.
Okay, can I have a motion to now approve firm and trade name of MAS CPA LLC?
So moved. This is John, so moved.
This is Robert, second.
Okay. Moving to approve the firm name. I'll take a vote. Robert Kawahara,
Yes.
Isabella Gary, Alex Smith, yes. Wendell Lee, John Arbos.
Yes.
Gary Miyashiro, yes.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, then let them know.
Well,
Okay, we need to make one more motion to amend. This is just, yeah, I think it's a typo, so your CPA applications under C, number 15, Justine, I think the middle name should be Florence. It says, right now it says, I guess, Florence, F-O-R-E-N-C-E, just correct to be Florence. Just so that the written agenda is amended. So if you could take a motion to amend, and
Okay.
then motion to approve that
Okay.
application.
I
We'll
will
do it separate, two separate motions. Okay.
motion to amend item 7C15, Justine Florence Arnold, to correct the spelling of Justine Florence Arnold.
John, so moved.
Wendell, second.
Okay, move to amend the agenda for that item. Any other?
Yeah. I did one.
Any item to discuss?
Sorry, I was just checking to see, and we didn't get these applications, but John and.
That's all right. Okay, so those CPAs from it to practice. are already.
Okay, so
You
it's just a
don't get
name.
those. Yeah,
Just wanted to make sure that the name was correct in the agenda, right?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
It would be Hector.
Okay,
So if you assume,
that is correct.
so no more typos, then now you have to amend the
The
agenda.
PTPs are directly from the.
I mean, I'm just saying it was
The applicant, yeah.
on
No,
and.
good to ask now.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey,
Okay, so, we're on the correction of item 7C50, 15 Florence Arnold. Taking a vote, there was already motion to approve that amendment to the agenda on that spelling. So I'll take a vote. Robert Kawahara,
Yes.
Isabella Gary.
Yes.
Alex Smith. Yes. Wendell Lee.
Yes.
John Arbos.
Yes.
Gary Miyashiro, yes. Okay, can I have a motion to approve that CPA application under that corrected name, Justine Florence Arnold?
This is John, so moved.
Gary, second.
Okay, I'll take a vote. Robert Kawahara,
Yes.
Isabella Gary, Alex Smith. Yes. Wendell Lee.
Yes.
John Arbos.
Yes.
Gary Miyashiro, yes. Okay. Moving on. Do we, yeah. Is there, any questions or testimony from the applicants that are online? Or any questions?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have anyone requesting to provide testimony.
Is there any public testimony for agenda item number 8 that's coming up, election of the chair and vice chair pursuant to HRS 436B6?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have anyone requesting to provide testimony?
Okay,
I approved the whole list.
Yes.
yes.
Yep, it's, A, B, C, D.
For number 8, basically, every June 30th of each year, the terms of the board members expire, basically. And so July 1st, normally, the board has to again look for a president or vice president, and those who are in the current position, chair and vice chair, and those in the current position can nominate themselves if they want to. But basically, we're starting the new term again since June 30th of 2024. So we'll be voting for chair and the vice chair, and you can nominate yourself.
I nominate Gary Miyashiro, Chair.
Wait, let me, before that, can I clarify? So the board, you can remain as is, keep Gary and John as your chair and vice chair. Or if you're interested and you want to volunteer for one of those positions, you can raise your hand at this time. If not,
Anybody
then
want to be chair?
Not after today.
I'm not gonna oppose.
I moved to stay the same.
Keep the slate.
a motion. For a second.
I'll second Robert.
All right, motion to have the same makeup of the board for chair and vice chair, chair being Gary Miyashiro and John Arbos being the vice chair. I'll take a vote. Robert Kawahara,
Yes.
Isabella Gary, Alex Smith,
Yes.
Wendell Lee,
Yes.
John Arbos.
Yes.
Gary Miyashiro, yes, I agree, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, again, next meeting, Friday, September 27th, same thing here. Otherwise, meeting adjourned.